US Senator Bernie Sanders has scored a decisive victory in Nevada's Democratic Party presidential caucuses. It's the first contest in a demographically diverse state, and Sanders' giant lead strengthens his frontrunner status. The Democratic candidates are now looking ahead to the South Carolina primary next week, and then Super Tuesday on March the 3rd. That's when 14 states will hold primaries, including key states like California and Texas.
So far, so successful for Bernie Sanders. Such was his confidence of winning in Nevada, he'd already moved on to another battleground, Texas, one of the key Super Tuesday states.
In Nevada, we have just put together a multi-generational, multi-racial coalition, which is going to not only win in Nevada, it's going to sweep this country.
Nevada is the most diverse state to have its say in the contest so far. Polling suggested Sanders had done well with Hispanic voters. His plans for universal health care also resonated with many. He's now the clear frontrunner, but behind him, the race is tightening. It was a better night for this man, Joe Biden, after disasters in Iowa and New Hampshire.
You know, the press is ready to declare people dead quickly, but we're alive and we're coming back and we're going to win.
Still, moderate Democrats like Biden and Pete Buttigieg are concerned. They worry Sanders' ideology plays into the hands of President Donald Trump.
Before we rush to nominate Senator Sanders in our one shot to take on this president, let us take a sober look at what is at stake for our party, for our values, and for those with the most to lose. Senator Sanders believes in an inflexible, ideological revolution that leaves out most Democrats, not to mention most Americans.
As if to prove the point, Trump tweeted his congratulations to, quote, crazy Bernie, adding, "Don't let them take it away from you." At this stage, the Democratic contest appears very much Sanders to lose.
Was the Washington Post?
And joining me in the studio is DW's William Glucroft. William, talk us through the significance of what happened in Nevada.
It is significant to be first put out there that only 50% of the precincts have been counted, but that's enough to call this election for Bernie Sanders. He's got nearly 47% of the vote. He has more in the popular vote, twice as many popular votes as the next candidate, Joe Biden. He has almost as many popular votes as Biden, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar combined, the three major moderate candidates. So when it came to Iowa and New Hampshire, for example, there was a counter-argument saying, well, if you add up all of the votes for the more moderate wing, they are actually beating Bernie Sanders. You can't really make that argument anymore when it comes to Nevada. Bernie Sanders has swept across age, demographic, income level. Exit polls are showing that Democrats in that state believe that Bernie Sanders is the best candidate, best Democratic candidate to beat Donald Trump, which has long been what people like Buttigieg and Biden have been saying. I'm the one to beat Donald Trump because I'm a unifier and Bernie Sanders is too radical to the left. Clearly, Democratic voters are rejecting that narrative.
And therefore, are we seeing the end of Biden and Buttigieg's campaign, or the beginning of the end?
We're not seeing the end of anybody right now.
Yeah.
This seems to be a primary, unlike many in the past, which Iowa and New Hampshire tend to shore up the top one or two who then tend to compete. You look in 2016, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders really were the top candidates for most of the primary season. And this time around, we're seeing a lot of these candidates sticking to their guns and staying in this race. If you're looking at Biden in particular, Biden is putting a lot of his hopes on South Carolina next week. South Carolina with a large black population, and polls at least suggest that black voters are enthusiastic about Joe Biden. And of course, coming up to Super Tuesday, we have Michael Bloomberg's strategy of pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into 14 Super Tuesday states, thinking he can kind of come in as the dark horse at the end and sweep away victory. So no one's pulling out yet. At least at this point, we're going to have to see where South Carolina and Super Tuesday take us.
Have to see. I mean, without personal opinion, obviously, but what are your predictions?
I mean, We can look at the polls. I mean, when the whole point of this primary process of having a staggered process that it gives momentum to winning candidates, and that is Bernie Sanders right now. And you do see support moving in his direction across states because Democrats in many states are saying we want a candidate that can beat Donald Trump. And if he can convince Democrats that I'm the guy to do it, that might see people put aside their personal preferences for other candidates just to see Donald Trump defeated. But it's going to be very, very interesting if Michael Bloomberg's strategy of focusing on Super Tuesday can work, and if Joe Biden could pick up any momentum from South Carolina, if he does well. But some of his support is starting to break away, and there is a movement coalescing around Bernie Sanders, much like we saw in 2016. So we're really going to have to see where this goes leading into the summer national convention.
Yeah, well, all eyes will be watching next week for those primaries. William Glukoff, thanks very much for the update.
Absolutely.